Ladies and gents, welcome back. It's been an interesting week. We had the first week of the Emergencies Act inquiry, where they were meant to look into the reasons for why the federal government invoked the Emergencies Act. This past week on Thursday and Friday, it was only 2 days. So this first day was just everyone introducing themselves. The second day, we got a few people to take the stand, and it was, I want to say, interesting. It didn't really get into any justification. It seemed like a lot of pontification and people introducing stories that they heard from other people. And today I have Eva Chipiuk in to talk about how the first week went and where we're going from here. Hello, Eva.
Hi, Clyde. So nice to be here.
It's so nice to have you. I've been looking forward to this. Now, how did the first week go? I know it was only 2 days, but what are we looking at so far?
Well, like you mentioned, we've only had 2 days. The first day was pretty administrative. We got a bit of a lowdown from the commissioner, which I thought was great. He really set the stage for people that were asking a lot of questions since the invocation of the act, and we knew that this commission was going to be called. So I really enjoyed his comments. Then, there was a bit of more information from commission counsel. We got the introductions from all the parties. So that was really good to see, everyone for the first time. And that was that. Yesterday is when we got started into the evidence, and that's what's going to be for the next 6 weeks. It's basically, and I've said this a few times now, it's an investigative process. So what you see in courtrooms and on suits, usually that would be an adversarial process. So one party against another. Here, of course, there are different sides, and actually there's multiple sides. So it's not just a plaintiff and a defendant. You see, there's a lot of different interests at play. And so the purpose of the next 6 weeks is to investigate. So lots of information is going to come out. And the first part is, as you saw yesterday, was the commission lawyers are the ones doing what's called we don't really call it any of these in this proceeding, but it's like the evidence in chief. So that's when the plaintiff or the applicant would give their evidence. And then what comes after is a cross-examination, and all the other parties have a chance to test the evidence that was given. They're given an opportunity to ask questions about it. So that goes to credibility of the witness, truthfulness of the statements, and those kind of things. And that's the purpose of that. So that's what we saw yesterday.
So and this is a really interesting thing, because a lot of people like me, we're not lawyers. We're watching these and listening to these inquiries. It's a completely different process than we're used to. We know that everyone's under oath. Now, a lot of people are screaming at their phones and screaming at their computer screens on Friday because a lot of people were saying hearsay. This is all hearsay. Like, the things these people were bringing up were not, they didn't witness this for themselves. They're just third-party testimony. And tell us, like, how does this actually work? Is that admissible?
What's really funny too is if people watch the other huge trial of this year, it was the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial. And if you just Google Johnny Depp and hearsay, you see that Johnny Depp learned what hearsay was, and literally he couldn't say anything unless it was something he experienced. He couldn't even talk about somebody else's text messages to him. Mm-hmm. So that's the strict rule of law hearsay. High standard of evidence there. And what did you see at that trial? If you did watch it, objection. So that delays the process. That's one thing. We're under crazy time constraints, but I'm not saying that's the reason it's not the same high evidentiary standard. But it goes back to my first, discussion about the process. This is meant to be an investigation. So how do you investigate? We might be getting, and I'll say it, a lot more than we wanted to hear on Friday from some of the witnesses. But that's the purpose of it, is just getting all the information out. And then, as you see, again, in return, there is an opportunity to test that. So in some cases, maybe too much information doesn't help, because then there's an opportunity to test all of that information. So you do have to be strategic when you're giving evidence as well. Like, you have to be able that if you're trying to figure out what it is you're saying, you're going to be put on the spot. So, and one thing people have been asking questions about too, so I'll just put it out there now, is the process that's been set up with this commission is, so we saw the first two panels were a bit shorter and the second one was longer. And how it's been determined to move forward is if the commission counsel is doing the evidence in chief for, it was 2.5 hours with the two counselors. The other parties have 2.5 hours to cross-examine. The difference is they have to share the time. So in the first panels, if it was 1 hour, I didn't keep my eye on the clock. Then for cross-examination, it's 1 hour too. So that's just something to keep in mind going forward.
Yeah, I mean, so this is a completely different experience. Well, I mean, again, people are not lawyers. Most of our trial experiences through television dramas, but where most people...
It's quite hard to watch when you are a lawyer.
Oh, yeah, I can understand that because they probably get a lot wrong. But again, a lot of us we want to get to the bottom of this. Now, I wasn't aware until just recently that there's actually a time limit to this. Like, I believe it's in February. This has to be submitted.
Yeah, so that's an interesting thing. So, a lot of people have been saying Emergencies Act, Emergencies Act, Emergencies Act. Like, we all know what we're talking about. So Justin Trudeau, what he did is he enacted one of the sections in the Emergencies Act. The Emergencies Act has a whole bunch of sections and a whole bunch of requirements and components to it. One of the components of the Emergencies Act is that an independent third party kind of public inquiry has to take place. Mm-hmm. And within 1 year, a report has to be made with recommendations for policy changes after an investigation. So that's why there's a very strict timeline, and it's legislated in the Emergencies Act. So lots of people are saying, oh, it can be delayed, or if somebody gets sick or that. Really, it can't. And that was one of the points the commissioner made the first day, is he said in similar cases to this, like the Air India Commission, they had 4 years to gather the evidence and go through it, test it, write a report. Here, we're under such strict timelines. It's within 1 year. So, it's a good thing and a bad thing. It's a good thing because we will get something in response within a year, but it is very onerous on all of the parties.
And the other question I had before we leave for today was truthfulness. We know that everyone is under oath. How strict is that? And was the punishment for actually lying or being caught lying when taking the stand here?
Well, that's one thing that is not different than court. So everyone is under oath, or they're affirmed, or they swear on whatever Bible or Quran, I think, is available. And so what it is if you do lie under oath, same punishment applies. It's contempt of court.
Contempt of court. Oh, sorry, I got a little guest while I was recording in this. I forgot to lock the door on this. But I want to thank you, Eva, for Eva. I'm terrible with these pronunciations, but thank you so much for joining. And my little man Daniel wants to say hi to you.
Hi, Munchkin. And
thank you for bringing this to our attention and coming on the show and letting people know how this is going so far. I look forward to speaking with you and with all the other people involved in this. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Looking forward to being back.
And I'm looking forward to bring more news to you guys as this progresses. I know a lot of people are kind of on a cynical side of this, like they think it's going to be some other inquiry where everyone just kind of talks about it, but nothing ever happens. I think things might actually go in a good direction for Canada because of this, and there's a lot of good people working very hard in this behind the scenes. So thanks for everyone for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, now's the time. Hit that notification bell. It lets you know when I go live. I have been having to do a lot of these live streams lately. So hit that notification bell. It'll let you know when I do that. And we'll see you in the next one. Keep on trucking.